Good morning, guys. Again, uh, doing our next devotion. Um, Hope you guys enjoyed the one yesterday. So let's get into it. Some reminders, real quick. Tonight at 6:30, we'll be doing our Netflix watch party. Make sure you guys have Google Chrome and you have that extension Netflix party. I'll post a link to download it on Facebook and on Instagram today. So, what I want to talk to you guys about this morning is yesterday I talked to you guys about being patient, that we need to be patient during this time and trusting in God. Um, and so I want to give you guys an example of how we do that this morning. If we look in Hebrews chapter 12, in verses 1 and 2, it says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking to Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God." These verses are great verses because they're encouragement. They're great encouragement in times where things seem hard. The author of Hebrews writes to these people in times where they were the you could say that the audience of Hebrews were being forced into self-isolation themselves. This was written to a group of Christians who were living in the Jerusalem region. They were a lot of their families were practicing Judaism. They were believing Judaism. These were Christians who had left Judaism, were Jewish, and were believing in Christ as the Messiah, in Jesus as the Messiah, and they were being persecuted by their kinsmen, persecuted by their neighbors, persecuted by others, and they were being sort of pressured into not being Christian anymore. And here the author of Hebrews writes to them, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses," those who have gone before, if you go back, you read through Hebrews, he makes all these comparisons. We really do not have time to get into them in this short little devotion. But he makes all these little comparisons of people that were very well respected in Jewish tradition. They were very highly regarded. He talks about Gideon and Samson, Abraham, Isaac. He talks about Jacob. He talks about Noah and Moses. And he talks about all these people, and he uses this as a way to be like, this is the cloud of witnesses that we are surrounded by. And it's the same cloud of witnesses that you and I are surrounded by. We're surrounded by these prophets, by these leaders who have gone before us. And we are surrounded even more so by the Spirit of God. When we go through hard times, when we go through struggles, when we go through tribulations, when we go through these times where we need to be patient, where we need to trust, where we need to rest in God, we need to remember that these are all things that those who went before us went through. And we go back to Genesis, and we see that God had asked Noah to build an ark. Noah was old when he built the ark, but he did so, not knowing when things were gonna happen, not knowing when things were gonna change, but he did that we go back in the Old Testament still. In Genesis we see Abraham telling Isaac, God will provide. We see in the Old Testament, we see Job going through everything that Job went through and still waited on God. We see in the Old Testament, Habakkuk. we see him like question God. We see the prophets. We see Lamentations written by Jeremiah, who's known as the weeping prophet. We see Lamentations written by Jeremiah. We see him. Cry out and weeping for the status of Jerusalem at that time. We see Habakkuk, like I said earlier, we see Habakkuk like actually question God, like, hey, how long am I going to cry out for help before you answer, before you do something about the unrighteousness? And I know that, like, comparing what we're going through now and unrighteousness of people around Jerusalem in the Old Testament is very extreme. But in their own ways, like, the solution is all the same. You see, the author of Hebrews encourages us that we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. So great a cloud of witnesses. It's in times like these that Christianity really steps up and really like fills the void for people. I remember growing up, I was 11 years old when the terrorist attacks on September 11th happened. And I remember how full the church was. I remember how different, like, everything was after that point. And it was in that moment where we saw a lot of people start to look toward Jesus. You see, in these moments where we're unsure of what's going to happen, where we need to be patient, where we're unsure of when things are going to change, when we're unsure of all this stuff, the one thing we can be sure of is the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. That means the work is finished. And so my encouragement to you guys this morning is this morning I want you guys to go forward and lay aside everything that's holding you back this morning. Go again, take a moment, go to your room, go somewhere private, go somewhere and just pray to God and say, God, I take everything holding me back from you and lay it aside. And let us continually fix our eyes on Jesus. Now, this is not like a one-time thing. This is going to have to be something that we're going to have to do every day, where we fix our eyes on Jesus, where we fix our eyes on God. Luke 9:23, Jesus tells those who want to follow him, for anyone who must follow me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, then come follow me. We have to deny ourselves. We have to deny what our flesh wants, and we have to take up our cross, a symbol of death. We have to put ourselves to death daily, every day. We have to put our flesh to death and come and follow after him. And when we come and we follow after him, we find peace, we find rest, we find joy. And so this morning, guys, I want to encourage you to do that. take that moment to fix your eyes on Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith. Don't forget about our Netflix watch party tonight, and see you guys tomorrow.